did it to preserve their own power and enrich themselves, all while rigging the system to hold down the good, decent middle-class patriots striving to build a family and
the world's going crazy, but then so am I. Taking time to compose, expose my habit, organized. Free your mind. Everyone got a narrative and a white lie. People painting pictures for the masses just for dollar signs. It's all about the group you're with. I don't care about the life you live. All I see is a small group in your large group that don't see their sin. Nobody look at character. Everybody look at color skin. Nobody look at numbers or facts. It's just how it is. Growing up in a modern age with modern lights and a modern case, just a renegade with plenty rage. I pick fights, see the demon say, more Gatorade, keep the energy and the stamina. Man, a race long, it's a marathon. Don't get it mixed like Tangler. Man, get your manners up. No elbows on the table. And pay attention to the people spitting fables. And dialogue is what gets them exposed. If you can't hear this side, then you already know. Man, top dog, not top wolf. Naked brothers band, yeah, lead the pack with a piece of hand. Building bridges and lighting fires, it's all tribal. I'll feed the ground and the soil. I see the death and the toil. I hear the voices of slaves. I feel the winds and they bringing that change. I'm seeing darkness, looking at heartless, losing their souls. Interesting things, nobody tends to know anything. I got the keys, enter the kingdom, yes it is free. Believe in your heart, confess with your mouth, see what you'll see. Yeah. The problem's in the heart of man, corrupted in the garden then, trusted enemies instead of listening.
What is up, people? What is up? So we are here. I believe that this thing is starting, so I'm gonna get right into it. We're gonna take a look at what's going on here. I believe Charlie Kirk is up right now. That's my homie, so I want to take a listen to what he has to say. If you're having trouble hearing the audio, if you're having trouble seeing the actual video, if you're having trouble with any of that, let me know. Drop it in the comments here on YouTube, because I want to make sure that you guys are seeing everything that I'm seeing. So let's jump over and let's see what's going on here. All right.
To love our country and respect its founding fathers, not taught to hate or be ashamed of them. We will build monuments to heroes, not burn down our cities. We will be a country that rises to higher heights, that dreams big, thinks big, and achieves the impossible.
Amen,
a country
brother.
that values our remarkable journey, the complexities of our past, but clearly communicates to the next generation that we have to be grateful, not angry, that we live in the United States. We will be a country that makes it easier to have many children, live quiet and peaceable lives, and worship your God without a tyrant getting in the way.
Boom.
We will be a country that has its best 100 years ahead. We will build a future where America remains the greatest country ever to exist in the history of the world. All of that is within our grasp if we secure 4 more years for the defender of Western civilization, our champion, my friend, the 45th President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump.
Hey, here he is. All right. Let's see what he's got to say. I don't know. I already kind of dig the vibe. It's not like a Zoom call vibe. It's more of like a just hanging out. Like it looks official. It looks presidential already. It's not super fashion forward.
I'm Rebecca Friedrichs, a veteran California public school educator.
Okay.
I'm here to give voice to America's great teachers, because our voices have been silenced for decades by unions who claim to represent us. They do not. When other dedicated teachers and I served within the unions, we spoke up in defense of children, parents, scientific fact, and American values. For our trouble, we were brutalized, booed off the platform, barred from committees, shouted down, and even spit upon by union leaders. This is how unions treat devoted teachers. But what's even worse is how their agenda of control deceives Americans and our children. They've intentionally rewritten American history to perpetuate division, pervert the memories of our American founders, and disparage our Judeo-Christian virtues.
That's right.
Their lenient discipline policies morphed our schools into war zones, and they back defunding police and abolishing ICE. Unions collect billions annually from unsuspecting teachers and push this radical agenda into our classrooms against our will. Why? The only way to keep a free republic is with a well-educated, moral citizenry that can self-govern.
That's right.
Unions are subverting our republic, so they undermine educational excellence, morality, law, and order. That's why they spend hundreds of millions annually to defeat charter schools and school choice, trapping so many precious low-income children in dangerous, corrupt, and low-performing schools. To fight back on behalf of children and America, brave teachers brought a lawsuit against unions. And do you know who intervened against us? The Obama-Biden administration and California Attorney General Kamala Harris.
Of course.
They argued against us at the U.S. Supreme Court. Their comrades labeled us spawns of Satan and slandered us in mainstream media. No matter their abuse, we'll keep fighting for the country and children we love, just like President Trump. He's breaking the union's grip on our schools. That's why unions have tried to destroy him since the day he was elected. But President Trump isn't afraid to fight for what's right. He won't back down. His courage gives great teachers renewed hope.
Already I'm seeing this difference from the DNC, where the DNC was really about, hey, get Trump out of office. You know, we have to do everything in our power to make Trump go away. We have to make sure he doesn't become, he doesn't continue to run this country because he's racist, he's this, he's the other. And it's all these like verbal attacks on the man, right? Which if you hate Donald Trump, I understand that. But already, I mean, we're like not even 5 minutes in, and already I'm hearing things about policy. I'm hearing things about what they're actually going to do. We heard Charlie Kirk talking about what the idea is of the overall Trump campaign, right? And what is going to be going forward. It's so different already, and there's not even much happening yet. And already we're seeing a substantive difference in the perspective of everything that's happening politically here. They haven't mentioned Joe Biden yet. I'm pretty sure within the first 5 minutes of the DNC, they mentioned Trump, and they mentioned this guy needs to leave the White House. Who's this? Listen.
I'm from Montana, where I live with my husband, my hero, a Marine and retired police officer. My husband and I own Mountain Mud Espresso. We are not some multinational corporation. Our success is not measured by stockholders, but by our neighbors, the people we see at church, and at jiu-jitsu school with our son. Mountain Mud Espresso is the American story.
I think I follow this girl on Instagram.
A story not just for entrepreneurs, but for millions of hardworking men and women who are building their American dream every day. A few months ago, like so many businesses, we got the crushing news a large event we were serving was canceled because of the virus. Our business was on the brink, threatened to be shut down from losses that were not our fault. I was scared. I thought of our 50 employees, the Mountain Mud family, and when I thought of their jobs, I thought of their rent being due, their kids, and I felt personally responsible. I'm not too proud to admit that I fell on my knees and prayed, Lord, what do I do? His words rang clear, keep on working, it will be okay. I had faith, and let me tell you, you have to have faith when your husband is a Marine and a police officer who was shot at on the job. And when you run a business, a little faith goes a long way. Faith in Jesus and faith in America.
I love this. Right away, we're talking about faith. We're talking about family. We're talking about substantive. Why am I not able to say that word today? Substantive things. I don't know. But my point is that we're talking about things that actually affect our daily lives, right? And that's what I love about this. In the DNC, we're talking about systemic oppression and intersectionality and all of these weird things that if you don't watch a political class, you have no idea you don't take a political class, you have no idea what they're talking about. Here, we're talking about God, we're talking about family, we're talking about husband and wife, we're talking about real things.
Well, we've been hiring weekly ever since. I feel for local businesses across America who are under assault from shutdowns, from riots and now facing the terrifying prospect of Joe Biden coming after everything we've built.
There's the first mention of Joe Biden.
We have leaders like President Trump standing up for local businesses like mine. Thank you, President Trump. It is exciting to be part of the great American comeback story.
Interesting. Okay, so far I'm seeing a lot of, they essentially look like business testimonials. It's just, you know, people who are out here talking about how great of a job he's done so far. So I dig it. I understand.
I'm Congressman Matt Gaetz.
I'm
speaking to you from an auditorium emptier than Joe Biden's daily schedule.
And the roasting begins.
Full hearts and clear minds. We see the choice clearly: strength or weakness, energy or confusion, success or failure.
I like this,
President
the
Trump is
duality.
the first president since Reagan not to start a new war. Biden has foolishly cheerled decades of war without winning, without end. President Trump knows we are strongest when we fight hardest, not in distant deserts, but for our fellow Americans.
Right.
We must fight to save America now, or we may lose her forever. Joe Biden might not even notice. Settle for Biden. That's the hashtag promoted by AOC and the socialists.
Yep.
The Woketopians will settle for Biden because they will make him an extra in a movie written, produced, and directed by others. It's a horror film, really. They'll disarm you, empty the prisons, lock you in your home, and invite MS-13 to live next door. And the police aren't coming when you call. In Democrat-run cities, they're already being defunded, disbanded. Blaming our best and allowing society's worst? That's the story they write in Hollywood. That's if the lights even stay on in California anymore.
This
a
is
state that
interesting,
cannot
man.
keep power running for its own people.
I wonder who this guy
should
is,
not
because I don't
send
know
its
who he
junior
is,
senator
but
to be vice president.
it's very interesting
used
to
to
see
write
how
only in
much of a
fiction,
duality
but
he's
nightmares.
really showing. He's saying Trump is this, and Biden stands for the exact opposite. And I like how he's laying out this argument for Trump. Very tactical and should appeal to most people that are logical.
Settle for violence in our neighborhoods or at our border. We won't settle for decades of bad decisions by basement-dwelling Joe Biden. We settle a continent. We know that the frontier, the horizon, even the stars belong to us. Donald Trump, like all builders, is a visionary. That which is built in the mind is even more powerful than the brick and mortar that holds it together. First comes the mind, then the making. First comes the vision, then the work. Washington, Lincoln, and Jefferson are immortal precisely because of the pull they have on our imagination. You cannot cancel a culture that loves its heroes. The dangerous left need America to be weaker to accomplish their goal of replacing her. We know that to make America great again, we must first make something of ourselves. That is the meaning of true strength. My great-grandfather was a railroad man.
I want to talk about like branding perspective here. The DNC had a very kind of sleek, futuristic vibe where everything that they were doing was, is he from Florida? That's awesome. LD, I'm definitely going to look into him some more. The DNC had this very kind of sleek vibe to it. Everything, even down to the logo, right? It was this, and I want to touch on this a little bit because I saw it floating around, the logo that was supposedly like the pentagram. I'm not necessarily on board on all that. I've been a graphic designer for like 15 years at this point, and I'll tell you that things fall into logos so easily that you would never ever expect as a designer. One of the biggest problems, believe it or not, in design school is people who make a logo and then all of a sudden they find out that it looks like a phallic symbol, and it's just something that's embedded in our subconscious. For some reason, we tend to make logos that aren't. I want to see what this girl has to say.
Congress in Maryland's 7th District. And like Shirley Chisholm, I'm unbought and unbossed. Let me remind you, the Democrats have controlled this part of Baltimore City for over 50 years.
Me to talk about branding,
and they have run this beautiful place right into the ground. Abandoned buildings, liquor stores on every corner, drug addicts, guns on the street. That's now the norm in many neighborhoods. You'd think Maryland taxpayers would be getting a whole lot since our taxes are out of control. Instead, we're paying for decades of incompetence and corruption.
Yep.
Sadly, the same cycle of decay exists in many of America's Democrat-run cities. And yet the Democrats still assume that black people will vote for them.
This
no
is
matter
one
how
of the
much they
things
let
I
us
love
down
to tell
and take
my
us for
Democrat
granted.
friends. It's like
We're sick of it.
realize all the
We're not
cities that
gonna
are
take it anymore.
failing are
The
Democratic
days
run
of
cities.
lying
It's
to
wild.
The Democrats are coming to an end. In Baltimore, we have the highest number of black Republicans in the entire country running for office this election cycle. Joe Biden believes we can't think for ourselves, that the color of someone's skin dictates their political views.
Ridiculous.
We're not buying the lies anymore. You and your party have neglected us for far too long. We want safety in our neighborhoods. We want to make the most of the federal opportunity zone I'm
The
standing in right
production
now
value
in
is
West
so
Baltimore.
much better than the DNC. Is it just me?
We want higher paying jobs and more business opportunities. We want lower taxes. We want school choice. We want a chance to get ahead, not just get by.
Yeah.
That's what President Trump promised, and that's what President Trump delivered. I want Baltimore to be an example to
She's the
Republicans
change
around
we need.
the country.
Absolutely.
That
Thank
we
you
can
for
compete
being
in our
here, by
inner
the
cities
way. I
if
know we
reach
spoke
out
on
to the
Instagram a
citizens
little bit.
and deliver real results. President Trump is bringing this country back roaring. He's bringing the American spirit to life for all Americans. So I'm asking you to help President Trump complete this great American comeback.
Yeah, there's like this natural cynicism that the left has for the country, and I think it's one of the big deciding factors in where you line up politically. It's like, are you more of a hopeful person or not? It tends to be that the more hopeful people are Republicans because they see that the beautiful past that we have in our country. Now, what we were talking about from a branding standpoint is look at the historic element that they're bringing in here. They're talking like, these columns and all of the American flags and the statues. They're reminding you this is a great country. They're reminding you this country has roots that go beyond anything evil. Eddie, what's up, man? Listen, if you want to call in, Eddie, I'd love to have you. Just shoot me a DM, or just let me know here you want to call in, and I can bring you in on my phone.
And the Gulf Coast. Democrats started their convention last week with Eva Longoria, a famous Hollywood actress who played a housewife on TV. Well, I'm actually a real housewife and a mom from Michigan with two wonderful kids in public school who happens to be the only the second woman in 164 years to run the Republican Party.
Wow.
And unlike Joe Biden, President Trump didn't choose me because I'm a woman. He chose me because I was the best person for the job.
What a
4
stretch.
years ago, President Trump started a movement unlike
what a surprising
any other.
thing to do.
And over the next 4 days, we will hear from a few of the millions of hardworking, everyday Americans who have benefited from his leadership.
Absolutely.
If you watched the DNC last week, you probably noticed that Democrats spent a lot of time talking about how much they despise our president. But we heard very little about their actual policies.
Right.
Policies that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. Policies like banning fossil fuels, eliminating private health insurance, taxpayer-funded health care for people who come here illegally, and defunding the police.
Absolutely.
Their argument for Joe Biden boiled down to the fact that they think he's a nice guy. Well, let me tell you, raising taxes on 82% of Americans
that's not
is
very
not nice.
You know, most
Eliminating
pre-job
10 million good-paying
psychological screenings ask, do you have mental health issues, which takes up most of your time, and makes you angry. By this logic, most Democrats cannot pass a psychological screen.
The truth is,
That's
there's
very
only
true.
one person who has empathized with everyday Americans and actually been fighting for them over the past 4 years, and that is President Donald Trump.
Absolutely.
In the nearly 4 years I've worked on behalf of President Trump, I've seen up close a man who has a deep love for family, a man who has reverence for the office of the presidency, a man with an incredible respect for law enforcement and our military. I've seen private moments where he comforts Americans in times of pain and sadness. Now, everyone knows he can be tough. He's tough when he takes on China.
Sure.
Tough when he works to fix our unfair trade deals. Tough when he fights to secure our borders. President Trump is always going to be tough when he is fighting for the American people, because nice guys like Joe cared more about countries like China and Iran than the United States of America. Tonight begins a new chapter in the great American story. A story that has inspired the world for generations. And when we re-elect President Trump this November, the best is yet to come. This election is the most important in our lifetime. Your vote counts more than ever. If you want to check your voting status, secure your ballot, or register to vote, text VOTE to 88022.
I love it.
Earlier today, President Trump and Vice President Pence came to North Carolina to thank our delegates for unanimously renominating them to a second term. Our official roll call and the business of our Republican convention was conducted today in Charlotte. We have created a short video to symbolize the excitement for President Trump across all 50 states and territories. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.
I dig it. That one was a little bit on the womp side. I'm not I'm not feeling it too much, but I understand.
State of Alabama,
Alaska,
American Samoa,
Arizona,
Arkansas,
California,
Colorado,
Connecticut, Delaware, District of Columbia,
Florida, Georgia,
Guam,
Hawaii,
Idaho,
Illinois, Indiana,
Iowa,
Kansas,
Kentucky, Louisiana,
Maine,
Maryland,
Massachusetts,
Michigan,
Minnesota,
Mississippi, Missouri,
Montana, Nebraska,
Nevada, New Hampshire,
New Jersey, hey,
North Carolina,
North Dakota,
the Northern Mariana Islands,
Rich, Rich, thank you for being here.
Tennessee.
Are you watching this on your own, Rich?
Utah,
Vermont, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia,
Wisconsin,
Wyoming.
We're excited to nominate
Donald J. Trump.
Donald J.
Vice
Trump.
President Mike Pence.
for 4 more years.
Hey, Rich, if you call my phone right now, you can be on my YouTube channel and you can be live with everybody.
It is our privilege
to nominate you for 4 more years.
And we know the best is yet to come. I was watching a pre-show. It was something that was happening on ABC, and it was just the way people were kind of phrasing everything that's going on with the actual election was hilarious to me. So everything was being put in the context of like this evil president is, you know, sweeping the nation with his approval rate, and his white supremacy and this and that, and it was so devastating to see just how easily the mainstream media, like this isn't a little YouTube channel or something, it was like ABC, like the news that people watch, the news people actually watch, and they're talking about the president in this horrible light, like we're under some sort of attack, and they started playing clips from like younger black people, black women talking about how Donald Trump is the most racist president to ever exist, all of this craziness. And it's just so funny because I've been in this space for maybe a few months now, and just in the first few months, first of all, like if you look at my podcast, I think I've had one white person on my podcast, other than that, and it's Gavin Wax, the president of the Young Republicans Club. So it's funny to me to see to have people think that Trump and more so the campaign or the MAGA emblem is a racist one, because it just hasn't been my experience at all. And just looking around, even at studies, like there's a bigger black approval rating for Trump than there has been in a long time for any Republican at all. So even when you're just looking at it factually, I'm white. Oh, really? Oh God. Some people do say I talk white, but I don't know. Let's not go there. How about that?
More jobs.
Hope to me is the belief
Latinas,
in a
look at
better
that.
tomorrow and creating a better future for our children.
When I look in the eyes of my grandchildren, I want them to know that their papa was not silent.
Their papa.
We will rescue kids from failing schools by helping their parents send them to a safe school of their choice.
Such a big deal, man.
We will
My brother's on here.
rebuild our depleted military.
What's up, man?
The countries that we are protecting. At
The
a
school choice
massive
thing is beyond me.
cost
Why
to
people
us.
wouldn't want, why the DNC wouldn't want kids to be able to leave their town to go to a better school is just beyond me. I know that there's an argument against it from a conservative side, but I think that's something that honestly we can take a loss in. Like if these kids have a bigger chance of succeeding coming out of inner cities, going to different schools and getting different experiences, I think we should allow for that. Why the DNC would push back on that is beyond me. Maybe it could be that they don't actually care about minorities. Maybe that's the thing.
but you can accuse me of being wrong, but you can't accuse me of not caring. Trying to see who would want a phone call right now.
As long as I'm president, I will never defund your police, that I promise you. It's time to deliver a victory for the American people.
Hey, Rafaela, of course. You know, I don't expect people to watch all 3 hours with me. Just want y'all to jam for a while, see what's up, you know? I'm sure there's only going to be a few highlights worth keeping after all this anyway. I just thought that I'd do it, see who stops by. All right, who's this?
My name is Amy Ford.
Amy
I've been
Ford.
a registered nurse for 17 years. I'm from the small town of Williamson, West Virginia, where I've lived my entire life, the daughter of a nurse and a coal miner. Even though I was the youngest of 4 children,
Any coal miners
I was
out there?
somewhat of a caretaker. It came natural for me. So it felt right to follow in my mother's footsteps and become a nurse. And this March, when COVID-19 sent our country into crisis, I knew I had to help any way that I could. I deployed to New York in April and then to San Antonio, Texas, working as a COVID relief nurse in both states. As I contended with the challenges of treating our patients who had their worlds turned upside down, I noticed a positive change in our healthcare system. President Trump recognized the threat this virus presented for all Americans early on and made rapid policy changes. And as a result, telehealth services are now accessible to more than 71 million Americans, including 35 million children. Prior to COVID, telehealth was not covered or reimbursed under Medicare, Medicaid, or CHIP. This left our most vulnerable populations with no other choice but to have an in-person office visit with their physicians.
I'm trying to get somebody to get on here right now.
Increasing their risk of exposure to COVID-19 exponentially. The expansion of telehealth services has also resulted in the integration of video visits between patients and their families, allowing loved ones to have contact and visualization, as well as a better understanding of care. Telehealth has been essential during this pandemic. I don't want the media taking my personal story and twisting it, so let me be clear. As a healthcare professional, I can tell you without hesitation, Donald Trump's quick action and leadership saved thousands of lives during COVID-19.
Rich giving me tech support on here. I love it.
And the benefits of that response extend far beyond coronavirus.
Yeah, I threw this together all today. I just spitballed and was like, yeah, maybe I'll do it live.
Or to the doctor for regular
But
checkups.
I hope you guys are enjoying.
This is especially true in rural America.
Rural America.
I live in a town of about 2,000 people. We do not have buses, trains, trolleys, or Ubers available to us. In addition, the unavailability of services can also hinder treatment for many. So increased access to telehealth for millions of Americans has truly been life-saving, and we have President Trump to thank.
From the very beginning, the coronavirus wrong. The World Health Organization said authorities have found no clear evidence of human-to-human transmission.
Overall, most people should not be terribly concerned about it.
Everything's fine here. We do want to say to people, come to Chinatown. Here we are. Come join us.
That was one of the biggest blunders.
Be as bad as it was in other countries. Go about your lives, go about your business.
Hi, Vicky. What's up?
The leader took decisive action to save lives. President Donald Trump banning travel from China and coronavirus epicenters. Biden charged xenophobia, but President Trump was right, signing the CARES Act, providing immediate relief to American families, workers, and businesses, declaring a national emergency, tapping into $42 billion in existing emergency funding, quickly getting crucial personal protective equipment to the states, signing the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, ensuring that American families and businesses impacted by the virus receive the strong support they need, launching Operation Warp Speed to fast-track a vaccine in record time.
He said everything that I could have hoped for. Promise made, promise
Peace out, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Very willing and able to help.
He has been responsive. He's done a lot of good things.
What the federal government did.
This COVID thing is going to be interesting. I think one of President Trump's main plays is going to be how he navigates through the rest of this COVID thing. I mean, that's one of them. I mean, there's definitely the riots and all that. His response to the riots and all that is going to be a big deal. So we have to see where he's going to line up in those things. I think right now foreign politics isn't really going to cut it right now. I mean, he's great with China and he's hard with China like he should be, but that's not really going to cut it. People want to hear some stuff about what's going on in our country.
President Trump's decisive leadership led to a rapid and efficient response to the coronavirus pandemic. I know this as a health professional and as someone who has recovered from COVID himself. The COVID-19 pandemic exploded into our great nation with an intensity unparalleled in history. But our medical investigation and drug development systems were not designed for a pandemic. The devastating effects of the coronavirus demanded immediate changes at the regulatory level. A prompt response led by President Trump cleared away the red tape that usually makes drug approvals a long and drawn-out process. By harnessing the resources of the federal government and the private sector, President Trump's Operation Warp Speed is accelerating the testing, supply, development, and distribution of therapeutics, diagnostics, and very shortly, effective vaccines to counter COVID-19. Let me give you 3 clear examples of how President Trump's leadership removed regulatory barriers so COVID patients could have faster access to effective therapies and diagnostics. First, on February 26, 2 phase 3 clinical trials studying remdesivir were initiated. Just 2 months later, the FDA approved remdesivir for emergency use to treat COVID-19. Normally, this is a 3 to 5 year process. The amazing speed with which this happened in a safe but efficient manner is unheard of. Second, the FDA granted expanded access to COVID-19 convalescent plasma. Within 24 hours of this approval, we were administering convalescent plasma and remdesivir to a critically ill patient, a former Army Ranger and physician.
Snooze fest. Man, I understand what they're doing here. I'm just not about it. I mean, one of the things that the DNC gets right, and it's kind of started to work against them, but it's the idea of engaging the culture. I understand what he's doing here. He's talking about the real practical things that President Trump has done to be not only responsive or not only reactive but responsive to COVID, and he's trying to lay it all out. But I'll guarantee that's not going to work on anybody that's kind of shaky or halfway. They're going to want a more cultural play. They're going to want somebody who's in the public eye. They're going to want somebody that's going to be really, bombastic with everything. Like I forget the guy that was up earlier, but he was just very much being kind of cutthroat. Matt Gaetz from Florida, somebody like that is what they have to do. This guy, I understand what he's doing. I just don't think that it's a good strategy. But then again, Trump is a reality TV expert, which will work to his favor. On the one hand, one thing he's doing differently is that he's going to be here all 3 nights. He's going to talk all 3 nights. Biden only spoke 1 night, I believe, and he spoke on the last night. So it's going to be interesting to see what the different Trump talks are going to be like. I don't know if he's going to generally give the same message or if he's going to give a new message to each night. And I think him coming out every night is a great play because he understands what he needs to do to get the most engagement. And ultimately, this becomes a digital marketing play, right? All of these pieces that are showing up in between are just so well made. And they're just super different, but I do think there needs to be some sort of wow factor. I think they messed up by not, first of all, by putting Charlie Kirk to open Why are you putting Charlie Kirk to open and set the tone? He's one of the most combative, in-your-face political commentators that there are, and he's super pro-Trump. They should have saved him for later on, and they should have promoted him, because if I would have known Charlie Kirk was going to be there, I would have made more of an effort to make this even more of a thing, and I think a lot more people would be engaging. That's a good point, Eddie. I wouldn't watch Biden speak for 3 nights. But I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that there's this appeal that Trump has where he can just go up there and riff. And, you know, I listen to a lot of comedy podcasts and they all talk about it. They're not really Trump supporters, but they listen to Trump for stand-up comedy material, because he just goes up there and he's roasting people and he's zinging people. And it's hilarious to see that the leader of the free world is just so kind of, you know, laid back with everything, but it's working to his favor, because now with COVID, everything is digital and everything is produced and everything is not in person. So you don't have that. Now you have that fourth wall. You don't have that inclusion of having a bunch of people, which Trump is very good at. He's very good with producing. You know, if you look at The Apprentice or any of the shows that he's worked at, this is his domain, man. And, you know, this will set him up. This is the jab to the right hook of the debates, in my opinion. If he gets in the room with Joe Biden and they start going back and forth in a debate, it's game over for Joe Biden, unfortunately, because anybody that's left in the middle is going to look at Joe Biden like, what a schmuck. You know, like, you're just going to let this guy run over you. But so far, I'm not seeing anything, and this is what I was worried about. I'm not really seeing anything super fun. I think this is him talking.
Well,
this is him
that profession will never be out of business.
Somebody.
You know that, right? Sure. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. And how about you?
I'm a registered nurse, President Trump. I work at a New Jersey hospital. It's called Virtual Willingboro Hospital.
New Jersey.
I also represent an organization of professional nurses. It's called the National Association of Catholic Nurses.
Very good.
But I want to tell you, sir, as a nursing supervisor, I am so in awe of your leadership. Honestly, I know many people have said often interesting things, but it takes a true leader to be able to ignore all that stuff and do what is right and not be offended by all the words being said. Yeah. And you really do show that positive spirit to us. And as nurses, I appreciate that, but just as an individual.
I'm always curious to know how much of these compliments that Trump is getting from people. Yeah, nobody's wearing, that's a good observation, Eddie. Nobody's wearing masks, which is great. I think it's perfect, because in the DNC, everybody had their mask on, everybody's 6 feet apart. I love how they kept the floor clear. And just made it like this big elongated room. I think that's super cool. When people are addressing us at the podium, I think that's cool. But yeah, I wonder how much of this positive feedback Trump gets, because I'm sure he gets plenty of negative words. So it's just a random thought.
We have delivered billions of dollars of equipment that governors were supposed to give, and in many cases, they didn't get. So the federal government had to help them, and all of the people that did this incredible work, they never got credit for it. But you understand where it came from. Thank you very much. Thank you both. It's really nice. Please, go ahead.
I'm a police officer in Englewood, Colorado, and I contracted COVID in late March and recovered.
And she's not wearing no mask?
We don't have to be afraid of you at all,
Yeah.
right? Once you're recovered,
this is what makes him so
we have the whole thing
great.
with plasma happening. That means your blood is very valuable. You know that, right? Thank you very much. Great. Please.
I'm a detention deputy at the Kern County Sheriff's Department out in California.
Great.
And I also contracted COVID end of March and recovered from that also.
How long was your problem?
I was sick about 10 days, really bad. I got everything besides a cough, but recovered. I was off work for a month and a half, and I work in our local county jails.
Did they do anything specifically to help you recover?
They gave me Z-Paks medication, cough syrup.
Okay, and I won't even ask you about the hydroxychloroquine, because
this is where Trump shines.
Done to that one,
segments like this, they should have done 2 hours of this.
Z-Pak also, and zinc. I want to thank you all very much. It's an honor to have you in the White House. You're fantastic people, and the people you represent an incredible group of people, and we love you all. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
That was a great segment.
Good evening. I'm Congressman Jim Jordan, representing the 4th District of Ohio.
Snooze,
the Republican
man.
Party is the pro-America party. President Trump is the pro-America candidate. This election is about who can preserve the values, principles, and institutions that make America great. Don't believe me? Look at what's happening in American cities. Cities all run by Democrats. Crime,
Absolutely.
violence, and mob rule.
And this is my
Democrats
point from
refuse
earlier.
to denounce the mob, and their response to the chaos, defund the police, defund Border Patrol, and defund our military.
Yeah.
And while they're doing all this, they're also trying to take away your guns. Look at the positions they've taken in the past few months. Democrats won't let you go to church, but they'll let you protest. Democrats won't let you go to work, but they'll let you riot. And Democrats won't let you go to school, but they'll let you go loot. President Trump has fought against each of their crazy ideas.
It's wild,
He's taken
man.
on the swamp, all of the swamp, the Democrats, the press, and the never-Trumpers. And when you take on the swamp fights back.
I think this
They tried
message
the
could have
Russia
been better
hoax,
said
the
by
Mueller
somebody that
investigation, and the fake
look like they are a member of the swamp.
Unbelievable opposition.
So, I mean, I get it. I
Has
understand
done what he
it.
said he would do.
Just pointing out the
cut,
Democratic hypocrisy,
regulations reduced,
or the
economy
hypocrisy
growing,
of the
lowest
Democrats.
unemployment in 50 years, out of
But
the
I
Iran
think it
embassy
needs to
in
be
Jerusalem,
portrayed in a more
hospice
creative
over North
way.
Korea, a new
I do,
USMCA
like I said, I
agreement,
admire
and of
the
course,
production
it's building
quality.
the wall and rebuilding our economy as we speak. I love the president's intensity and his willingness to fight every day in Washington for our families.
I do think
But
they're
what I
just
also
warming up,
appreciate
Eddie.
about the
I
president
agree.
is something most Americans never get to see, how much he truly cares about people. Our family has seen it. 2 years ago, our nephew Eli was killed in a car accident. He lived a mile up the road from us, grew up wrestling and training with our boys, was a high school state champion, varsity athlete for the University of Wisconsin. It was a Saturday morning, 3 days after the accident.
That was definitely a zinger,
I walked
Rich,
to
for
the
sure.
car to head up to Eli's parents' home when the president called. We talked about a few issues, and then he asked how the family was doing. I said, "They're doing okay, Mr. President, but it's tough." The president said, "Yeah, losing a loved one is always difficult, and it's really tough when they're so young." I then said, "Mr. President, I'm actually walking into their house right now. Obviously, they don't know that I'm talking to you, but if you'd be willing to say hello to Eli's dad, you'd make a terrible day a little less terrible." "What's his name?" the president asked. I walked through the door and said, "Todd, the president wants to talk to you." For the next 5 minutes, family and friends sat in complete silence as the president of the United States took time to talk to a dad who was hurting.
Wow.
That's the president I've gotten to know the last 4 years. The president who shared private moments like this with soldiers, victims of violent crime, and people who've had businesses destroyed by the mob.
Yeah, and for whatever, I guess, accusations you may have at Trump, he does take up those presidential formalities, and he does them well. I do think that it has a lot to do with his time as a real estate guy in New York, just having to schmooze and just having to be, really, on the ball when it comes to interpersonal stuff. But, he has all of these pictures and all of these things, like when he talked to the family of Martin Luther King Jr., when he talked to, all these people that were in these tragedies. I think he's really good at that, and that's one of the things that he's really strong at. I'm glad that they're highlighting that. Obviously, somebody thought about that.
Off a professional football team. Right after he bought the team, he set out to learn.
Wait, is this
He
the
learned
guy
about
that was at the interview with Kanye? I can't remember. If somebody will let me know.
Then he used what he learned
No, I
to
don't
make
think
the
it
team
was.
better. I watched him in the boardroom. He can be in the middle of a big meeting, but if one of the kids was on the phone, he dropped everything to take the call. He taught me that the family should be your top priority. I watched him treat janitors, security guards, and
Herschel
waiters
Walker.
the same
Oh, okay.
way he would treat a VIP. He made them feel special because he knew they were. He understands that they are the people who make this country run. They clean, they cook, they build, they drive, they deliver. He told me, "Herschel, make an effort to get to know people. Remember their names." That stuck with me. One time, I planned to take his kids to Disney World with my family. At the last minute, Donald said he'd like to join us. So there he was, in a business suit, on It's a Small World ride. That was something to see. It just shows you what a caring, loving father he is. It hurt my soul to hear the terrible names that people call Donald. The worst one is racist. I take it as a personal insult that people would think I've had a 37-year friendship with a racist. People who think that don't know what they're talking about. Growing up in the Deep South, I've seen racism up close. I know what it is, and it isn't Donald Trump. Just because someone loves and respects the flag, our national anthem, and our country, doesn't mean they don't care about social justice. I care about all those things. So does Donald Trump. He shows how much he cares about social justice in the black community through his actions. And his action speaks louder than stickers or slogans on a jersey. He keeps right on fighting to improve the lives of black Americans and all Americans. He works night and day. He never stops. He leaves nothing on the field. Some people don't like his style, the way he knocks
I
down.
do admire that they're not jumping into this realm of identity politics. Obviously, this man can speak on whether or not he feels Trump is racist because he's a black man, but they're not going out of their way to kind of cater to the identity politics thing by filling it with, like, you know, a Latino woman and a black man, and this. They're not doing the quota thing, which I admire, and I think it's an important thing, because if they conceded that territory, it would force them to play in that arena, and that's not something that they can win at, obviously.
A formerly forgotten American from California. In the classic Jimmy Stewart film, It's a Wonderful Life, George Bailey is given a great gift, the chance to see
That is a good
what
movie.
the world would be like without him. Tonight, Mr. President, we'd like to give you that same gift, because without you, we'd all be living in Pottersville, sold out to a crooked Mr., or I should say, a crooked Mrs. Potter, with no hope of escape except death itself. I should know, because I wouldn't be alive today if it wasn't for you. About 5 years ago, I was the victim of a notoriously deadly medical error. I survived, but only to be diagnosed with a rare and terminal bone cancer. You know, the Democrats love to talk about healthcare being a human right. But a right to what? Well, I'll tell you. To them, it's a right to marijuana, opioids, and the right to die with dignity, a politically correct way of saying assisted suicide. I was told I was a burden
That
to my
freaks me
family
out, the assisted
and to my
suicide
country,
thing.
and that by choosing to die early, I'd actually be saving the lives of others by preserving resources for them, rather than wasting them on a lost cause like myself. And when I failed the chemotherapies that were on the market, no one wanted me in their clinical trials. I'd make them look bad. They didn't give me the right to try experimental treatments, Mr. President. You did. And without you, I'd have died waiting for them to be approved. Now with the coronavirus, everyone knows what that feels like to be waiting for a cure. But we've only been waiting a few months.
She brings up this interesting point that the left loves to go towards, which is this idea of the environment and how the environment ultimately is more important than us as humans, right? Like, you're saving other people resources by, you know, pretty much dying, you know, like killing yourself. And that to me is like where all of these policies, all of these left-leaning policies end up leading. They end up leading towards the death of self or the death of your soul, right? And I think it's important that people like this are heard, because even though I'm talking over her, I think it's important because you don't get to hear those sides of things. You know, everything is just crammed down your throat with the things like Cuties on Netflix, which is horrifying. And I was watching a show called Designated Survivor, which was an epic show about the president. And before you know it, there's this like part of the plot where the mother of somebody that works in the White House wants to kill herself, and she wants to, you know, be given the right to a peaceful death or whatever they want to call it. And they glamorized it and they romanticized it like it was this beautiful moment. And it's like, this is weird stuff. Like, you are asking somebody to kill you. Like, this is still murder. In my opinion, it's still murder. I understand if you want to, you know, have the plug pulled or something like that. You know, those are still very difficult decisions to make. But something like, you know, being given the right to, I don't know, I forgot the phrase that they use, the double speak. But essentially it just means the doctor gets to kill you because you want him to kill you. It's like, you're not in your sane mind. How can you say that? But that's where all these leftist policies lead, and I think it's great that they're highlighting them one by one. Goblin Gang, what's up, man? Thanks for showing up. I appreciate you being here. You know, just give me your thoughts on whatever's been happening. I don't know if you've been watching. What's the deal with you? But let's see how she wraps this up.
Only tell part of the story. We are the rest of it. Facts with faces of Americans who would still be forgotten if you and our favorite First Lady hadn't given up your own wonderful life so we could have the chance at one. George Bailey's father was
all right, let me talk about Melania for a second. It's so weird and I don't know, it feels kind of gross to me the way the mainstream media like drools over Michelle Obama, But with Melania, they treat her like absolute garbage. First of all, she's not her husband. Second of all, she's literally a model. Like, literally a model. And then now you want to, like, treat her like she's not this glamorous figure. We've always looked at Melania since she's been with Trump. We've always looked at her like this glamorous figure, and now because she doesn't align to our politics, you know, and she doesn't get into the fray of the politics, she really just does her first lady stuff. They go out of their way to criticize her, which is wild to me. So I don't know. Oh, let's see what's going on here. Who's this?
Hello, America. My name is Vernon Jones, and I'm a state representative from the great state of Georgia.
Georgia.
As you can see,
Georgia.
I'm a man of color, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, too. You may be wondering, why is a lifelong Democrat speaking at the Republican National Convention? And that's a fair question.
Why are you, my good
And here's
friend?
your answer. The Democratic Party does not want black people to leave their mental plantation. We've been forced to be there for decades and generations. But I have news for Joe Biden. We are free. We are free people with free minds. And I'm part of a large and growing segment of the black community who are independent thinkers, and we believe that Donald Trump is the president that America
Eddie,
needs
thanks for
to
stopping
lead
by,
us
man.
forward.
Appreciate you.
This is no time for sleeping in the basement. Joe Biden has had 47 years to produce results. But he's been all talk and no action, just like so many of the Democrats who've been making promises to the black voters for decades. We've been their captive audience. When President Trump sought to earn the black vote, the Democratic Party leaders went crazy.
It's true.
Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer literally started wearing kente cloths around the U.S. Capitol, as if pandering were enough to keep us satisfied. Let me tell you why I'm supporting
The bigotry
our
of low
I grew up in the
expectations,
South,
my friends.
in Laurel Hill, North Carolina, Scotland County, the Green Pond community to be exact. My parents, Robin and Rufus Jones, built with their own hands a 4-room cinder block home with no indoor plumbing. They had very limited education, but they instilled in us a strong work
absolutely,
ethic
Rich.
that drove me from those tobacco fields of North Carolina to those
Yeah, and on top of that, Rich, on top of the immigration from Mexicans, they were, you know, these are people who are, you know, sex traffickers as well. You know, a big part of ICE's job is to stop sex trafficking because these kids are getting sent over with random adults, and sometimes those adults are not, well, I'd say a lot of the time, they're not trustworthy, so they're taking those kids and they're selling them, and they're just, you know, not getting back to the families or whatever. You know, it's big money. It's big money, which is horrifying. But that's actually why I'm wearing this shirt. It's a shout out OUR, Operation Underground Railroad. That's Tim Ballard's organization. They deal with that a lot. You know, not necessarily in Mexico, but Haiti and places abroad like that. They'll actually kick in doors to people's like sex trafficking rings and start saving these kids, which is wild.
That gave our HBCUs stability, the chance to grow, and produce the next generation of black leaders. That's right, Donald Trump did that. He's also supported school choice to ensure that no child, no matter their race or zip code, is left behind. Every child should have access to a quality education. But education is just the beginning. The president also built the most inclusive economy ever, with record low unemployment for African Americans.
Absolutely.
And record high participation in the workforce. He put opportunity zones in the Trump tax bill that would drive investment into our communities for decades to come. He put the interests of American workers, and especially black workers, first. That's right, Donald Trump did that. He delivered historic criminal justice reform. He ended once and for all the policy of incarceration of black people, which has decimated our communities, caused by no other than Joe Biden. Democrats wouldn't do it. Obama didn't want to do it. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris definitely wouldn't do it. But Donald Trump did it. He's also working every day to make our communities safer. As a former executive of DeKalb County, Georgia, I directed one of the largest public safety departments in the Southeast. I've seen tragic shootings on both sides. Officers killing citizens and citizens killing officers in the line of duty. Police officers are our fellow citizens. They live in our country.
Rich, I love the Hodge twins, man.
They have families too.
They're my jam.
They live in our communities. Unfortunately, Democrats have turned their backs on our brave police officers. They call it defunding, and it's a danger to our cities, our neighborhoods, and our children. Isn't it ironic that Democrat politicians have personal security to protect them? So why don't they forego their security and replace them with social workers?
Yeah,
especially since that's what they want for you and me.
I think what he's throwing shade at right there is Lori Lightfoot, who would not condemn all of the riots that were going on in her area, but then hired personal security for her own home when the actual rioters got to her door. So it's really funny. Actually, one of the girls that painted over the Black Lives Matter sign, I think she went over there and got arrested because of that as well. Bevelin, I think is her name. But super, super awesome stuff.
On issue after issue. And in just a single term, he destroyed these negative forces that have victimized the black community for decades. He gave us the opportunity to rise. Now, you know, when I made the public announcement of my support for President Trump, all hell broke loose. I was threatened,
I bet,
called an embarrassment, and asked to resign by my own party. Unfortunately, that's consistent with the Democratic Party and how they view independent thinking.
Absolutely, it is.
Black men and women. But I'm here to tell you that black voices are becoming more woke and louder than ever. The Democratic Party
this
has
was a
become
smart play,
infected.
man. I think this was the right move. Somebody that's within the political realm, not a commentator, but somebody who has actually gone through the fray of the left and has walked away. That is a big deal, and this is going to speak volumes. I guarantee this is going to be clipped, and this is going to be used on Fox News. This is going to be used in the Ben Shapiro show. This is going to be on all the highlight reels because this is important stuff, and this is what the left is scared of, man. They're scared of minorities thinking for themselves and walking away from voting for them.
In the Oval Office for another 4 years.
Boom.
God bless you, and vote Donald J. Trump. Thank you.
I thought he was about to say vote Democrat. And commercial break. Oh, no. This guy looks like he's killed people.
In 2018, a gunman walked into Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and changed my life forever. My name is Andrew Pollock. His name isn't worth saying.
Oh.
One of the seniors walking in the hallways that day was my beautiful daughter, Meadow. She was just months away from graduating and beginning a new life. We were so proud of the woman she had become. But in the hallway on that third floor, the gunman saw Meadow and shot her down the hallway, hitting her 4 times. After she was shot and on the floor, she crawled over to another student, a freshman girl, to protect her. She draped her body over her, and then the scumbag gunman shot my daughter at point-blank range 5 more times, killing Meadow and the girl she was shielding. She had a whole life ahead of her. And in that life, she could have done anything and been anything. So many moments that I waited so long for were taken from me. I didn't get to drop her off at college. I didn't get to walk her down the aisle. But every moment was taken from her, and for what? I never wanted this to become a political spectacle, but it did. I never wanted to meet the president like this, but I did. I was invited to the White House. The truth is, I had just buried my daughter that week. I really wasn't interested in public events like a tour or a photo op. I was interested in answers and solutions. So if the president wanted to meet me personally, I said I'd go. They said, of course, that was his plan. At the White House, my family and I sat with the president in the Oval Office and told him about Meadow. I told him what we knew. I told him that his administration needed to take a closer look at what went wrong and why. And I got to see who President Trump really is. He's a good man and a great listener, and he cuts through the BS. Then the president did what he said he would do. He took action. He formed a school safety commission that issued dozens of recommendations to make schools safer. But I'll bet you never heard about that. Instead, the media turned my daughter's murder into a coordinated attack on President Trump, Republicans, and our Second Amendment. In fact, when President Trump asked me and other parents of children that were murdered in school shootings to join him as he announced the commission's findings, the media's first question wasn't about protecting kids. Shockingly, they asked about the government shutdown. President Trump turned to me appalled and said, "Andy, can you believe these people? We're trying to talk about school safety, and this is what they do." But I could believe it.
Salty Dog, I appreciate you, man.
The media
I love
didn't
people's
seem
YouTube
interested
names.
in the facts, so I found them myself.
But make sure you comment on here. Let me know what you're thinking of this RNC thing so far.
The gunman had threatened to kill his classmates before. He had threatened to rape them. He had threatened to shoot up the school. Every red flag you could imagine. But the school didn't just miss these red flags. They knowingly ignored them. Far-left Democrats in our school district made this shooting possible because they implemented something they called restorative justice. This policy, which really just blames teachers for students' failures, puts kids and teachers at risk and makes shootings more likely. But it was billed as a pioneering approach to discipline and safety. I was just fine with the old approach to discipline and safety. It was called discipline and safety. But the Obama-Biden administration took Parkland's bad policies and forced them into schools across America.
Yep, absolutely.
When President Trump rescinded Obama's guidance on restorative justice policies, he put an end to that. And that meant the world to me. It's hard to tell how much Mr. Biden understands about what happened at Parkland. Mr. Biden has campaigned on bringing back restorative justice as part of his unity platform with Bernie Sanders and has pledged to implement it in school districts across America. But he doesn't even seem to know when the shooting happened. He said that he was vice president when it happened,
keep that
but
in
he
mind,
wasn't.
Goblin Gang.
Mr. Biden
I'll
may not
see
know
what they're
when my
up to.
daughter was murdered, but I do. February 14, 2018. Mr. Biden may not know that these policies make shootings
Gonna
more
have an
likely,
awesome
but I
guest
do.
out later this week, so you guys
Mr.
keep an eye
Biden
out
may
for
not
that.
know.
Might as well do some of that here. Yeah, so this coming week, I'm going to be having somebody from Patterson, actually, which is my hometown, and we're going to be talking about all the things that New Jersey needs to know. And we're just, he's also a black man, so I'm hoping to get into some of the discussions with the stupidity of identity politics and how it's taking over America. So it's going to be really interesting. I think I'm shooting with him Friday, I want to say. So it's going to be awesome. What do you think happens if Trump wins? Will the left accept? Oh, no, they won't accept it. Absolutely not. I think we're looking at riots. Speaking of, I think we're looking at riots and we're looking at protests for the next year, regardless of who wins. So I really think it's just a matter of making sure we have the right legislation, we have the right lawmakers in office, and we have the right people able to do their job so that we can keep all those things under control. There's only so much that we can do when it comes to riots and protests without, causing a national panic. So I really do think that there's got to be some sort of finesse that has to happen. Oh, here we go. The moment we've all been waiting
Mark
for.
and Patty McCloskey. We're speaking to you tonight from St. Louis, Missouri, where just weeks ago you may have seen us defending our home as a mob of protesters descended on our neighborhood.
America is such a great country that not only do you have the right to own a gun, use it to defend yourself, but thousands of Americans will offer you free advice on how to use it. At least that's what we experienced. What you saw happen to us could just as easily happen to any of you who are watching from quiet neighborhoods around our country. And that's what we want to speak to you about tonight.
That's exactly right. Whether it's the defunding of police, ending cash bail so criminals can be released back out on the streets the same day to riot again, or encouraging anarchy and chaos on our streets, it seems as if the Democrats no longer view the government's job as protecting honest citizens from criminals.
That's exactly
but rather
right.
protecting criminals from honest citizens.
Absolutely.
Not a single person in the out-of-control mob you saw at our house was charged with a crime. But you know who was? We were. They've actually charged us with felonies for daring to defend our home. On top of that, consider this. The Marxist liberal activist leading the mob to our neighborhood stood outside our home with a bullhorn screaming, "You can't stop the revolution." Just weeks later, that same Marxist activist won the Democrat nomination to hold a seat in the U.S. House of Representatives.
Wow.
In the city of St. Louis, that's the same as winning the general election. That Marxist revolutionary is now going to be the Congresswoman from the 1st District of Missouri. These radicals are not content with marching in the streets. They want to walk the halls of Congress. They want to take over.
That's
They
exactly
want
what we
power.
were just talking about.
This is Joe Biden's party. These are the people who will be in charge of your future and the future of your children.
Absolutely. That's so
They're
great.
not
And
satisfied with
it's
spreading
funny
the chaos
because
and violence.
I don't think that they were necessarily Trump supporters before this. I think this whole thing has politicized them, and they've had to be forced to kind of reevaluate everything they believe. They just happen to be gun owners. But that's exactly right. The question that JL asked is spot on. I mean, if Joe Biden wins, the people that will be in office behind him are going to be Marxist, extremist, socialist leaders. And that's only going to continue to worsen, specifically under Joe Biden. If Trump wins, there's still all of these really radical Marxist people. I think we have a call, gentlemen. Hello.
Spurred on by their allies in the media.
Hello?
Will try to destroy you. You've seen us on
Hold on, let me see if I can get this on here. Should be paired up. Hello? Hey man, 1 second, let me try and get you up on here. I don't know why it's not working the way it should. This is where I need Rich.
Worship in a church without shame and express your beliefs without retribution. Trump brought us the greatest economy our country had ever seen. The Democrats have brought us nothing but destruction.
When we don't have basic safety and security in our communities, we'll never be free to build a brighter future for ourselves, for our children, or for our country. That's what's at stake in this election, and that's why we must re-elect Donald Trump. God bless you. God bless the president. And God bless the United States.
Absolutely. Having some technical difficulties here, guys. Sorry about that.
Good evening, America. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle. I speak to you tonight as a mother, a former prosecutor, a Latina, and a proud American. And yes, a proud supporter of President Donald J.
Richard
Trump.
comes through with the ultimate.
Why? Because he is the president who delivers for America. He built the greatest economy the world has ever known for the strivers, the working class and middle class. As commander-in-chief, he always puts America first. President Trump is the law and order president. Now, presidential leadership is not guaranteed. It is a choice. Biden, Harris, and the rest of the socialists will fundamentally change this nation. They want open borders, closed schools, dangerous amnesty, and will selfishly send your jobs back to China while they get rich. They will defund, dismantle, and destroy America's law enforcement. When you are in trouble and need police.
You have reached the voicemail box
on the Democrats. As a first-generation American, I know how dangerous their socialist agenda is. My mother, Mercedes, was a special education teacher from Aguadilla, Puerto Rico. My father, also an immigrant, came to this nation in pursuit of the American dream. Now I consider it my duty to fight to protect
I think we
that
got you.
dream. Rioters must
Hello?
not be allowed to destroy our cities. Human sex drug traffickers should not be allowed to cross our borders.
What is going on?
The same
I just had it.
policies which
There we go.
destroy
Okay.
places like Cuba.
Hello.
Okay, there we go.
There we go. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Just watching, just watching a couple of minutes is making me scared to death.
It's crazy, right? At first I was okay. So let me introduce you to everybody first because we are live right now. So can you just say your name and your I guess your Instagram handle and let's get to talking.
Yeah. So my name is Amy B. That's how I like to go, Amy B. I think I like the sound of that.
Okay.
My Instagram name is REDD Scorpio _, so Red Scorpio.
Love it.
Great show. Loving what you're doing right now.
Thank you. I think if you have me on Instagram, then you'll have seen my my IGTV or my Instagram live with Amy here. So I think that I kind of have a feeling of what you're going to be talking about and what you're going to be saying. I do want to bring up that the first 15 minutes I was super bored, but then it kind of snapped into place. I think after the social media, not the social media, the little interview that Donald Trump had with those 6 different people, the cops and all those things. What was your favorite part so far?
Well, I don't even think I had a favorite part. I think just something that I think should really stick to all of us. It's the fact that, these Marxists are trying to really choke out the middle class because it's really what's standing in the way. It's the middle class, the Constitution, and Donald Trump that's standing in the way of their Marxist utopia, and it's so terrifying because we only have a couple more months before we really find out the fate of this country.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what I was talking about right before I started having technical difficulties. But this idea of like if Joe Biden wins, we're going to have an influx of super, Marxist educated congressmen and politicians and governors and all these people that are just going to flood into office because now we have the leadership that allows for that and we have the presidential backing that allows for that. Whereas I think if Donald Trump stays for another 4 years, for at least another 4 years, we have the security of knowing that even if it gets all the way to the top, if it gets all the way to, the federal level, we at least have a president that still believes in the Constitution at some point.
Exactly. But I think that a lot of people don't understand. A lot of people who don't understand communism, they don't know that the only people who actually really truly survive the socialist utopia are the media, which is going to be the propaganda machine, and politicians, which is why a lot of people are trying to flock to politics right now because they're going to be the only ones that survive and that are going to have, the gold toilets while people are standing up waiting for bread lines. At 3 a.m.
Right.
And it's terrifying. It's really terrifying because right now I'm thinking, if hopefully Donald Trump wins for another 4 years, that's only buying us. It's like buying time, right? Buying time for people to wake up in order so that, the brainwashing doesn't get to extreme levels. Because right now we're trying to brainwash more than ever. And one thing, and it's something that I thought about earlier when you were talking about schools, and just Marxism in general. I think that they're trying to keep schools closed, have everything be online and have, less instruction during the day so that people can really, these kids can go outside, dress up like Antifa and go outside and burn and loot and really destroy America, give it its one last blow before November.
Right, absolutely. I do think that there is like this urgency. It almost sounds like the DNC and the RNC, if you were to watch them and have no idea what's going on, it sounds like, like they're talking 2 completely different languages. The DNC is very much talking this coded language about, we need to fight in systematic racism and we need to, not let the patriarchy grab a hold of what our beloved country is. And they're using all of these like bigger words that ultimately don't mean anything. And I think all of that is like you said, it's this code to allow for people to really engage on these violent
on these more violent terms, and that's a scary thing, especially leading up to November. But once November comes, I think it's going to be a very telling moment for the country to see if there really is this silent majority, or if it's something that, you know, maybe America's just far gone and maybe I need to move to Sweden or something.
Yeah, I'm already thinking, I'm like, you know, where do they have at least, you know, the same level of freedom? Because we're really the last country standing between globalism. We really are. Every other country has some form of, you know, your rights come from government, not from God. We really are one of the last countries, if not the only country standing before this globalist one world government. I mean, you might call me a conspiracy theorist, but everything is really pointing to that this one world government. This is why the globalists, they don't care about the United States. You know, it makes their blood boil when they hear USA, because it's really what's standing in between, you know, them and this socialist utopia, but, you know, around the entire world.
Yeah, I think there's this fundamental misunderstanding that the left has of history, you know, and I even mean this for like pedestrian kind of liberal people who just aren't into politics. They're misinformed about what has happened already in the world. And in the grand scheme of things, not only is America ultra young, but the concept of America, that there could be this country that is not made up of an ethnos, but instead made up of a common goal or a common belief system, that's something super foreign that's never been done in the history of the world. And I think people need to kind of grasp that understanding of what America really is and where our place is in history, because it really is a cornerstone of human existence. And take that for what it is, the good and the bad with it. You know, history is not always pretty. Many times it's ugly. But just that being said, we need to understand where we are now in context of history so that we can know where to go. Because most of the things that the left is trying to bring in have already been worked on, have already been tried. Marxism has been tried and failed twice. You know, communism, the same thing. And socialism has been tried and failed countless times. So I think we really need to kind of rehone and re-understand what history means and what America is inside of that context.
Yeah, you know, that's amazing, but unfortunately when the Democrats control the school system, you know, these Marxist unions control the school system, I really just, you know, I try not to, I try to look at the silver lining, but I feel like unless we're able to break into the school system, I don't see how, you know, and also these universities as well, because it's not just the public schools, because these universities are actively, you know, engaging in this.
Right.
I don't know how we can do this, how we can break the spell and the monopoly that they have on these young kids, because it's really up to them. They're going to be our leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah,
and they're
absolutely.
coming out worse every year.
Absolutely. I do think that a big part of it is going to have to be that the people who really do believe in freedom and liberty and the values of America are going to have to start getting into those fields. And I just think that it's going to have to be a, you know, like Ben Shapiro always talks about, the best revenge is success. You know, we're going to have a group of young, strong people that grow up, understand the left's ideologies and understand their worldviews, get A's in those classes, graduate, and then pull funding as an alumni and say, I'm not going to fund this academy if you continue to keep teaching Marxist propaganda. And unfortunately, that's like the long play, right? That's like how we fix this country in like 2 generations. As far as right now, I really think we have to engage on a cultural level as Republicans. We really have to be in the center of the culture. We need Cardi B's, you know, not the same message, but, you know, the same prevalence. And we need people that are going to dominate in the cultural space in order to get these values across quickly to the youth of today.
Yeah, I completely agree. Definitely, if we do get the culture, I think, you know, I've heard before the left hand meme, and I understand why now that I'm on this side. I think that's something we definitely do have on our side, and just the fact that, you know, some young people are just, you know, going through rebellious phases, and they're like, you know, I don't want to be with you leftists. I want to see what the conservatism is all about. So I do think that does help us. But also, I think that school choice is also really important, and I'm glad that it's becoming a greater talking point, because if we're able to because, you know, with every child is thousands of dollars for these unions and these schools,
right?
Even though they never see it, unfortunately, because it just gets absorbed. No one ever knows where this money goes,
right?
But I think that's also, you know, that's why they scream about school choice. And I think, you know, you made a good point. Regardless of because I know that there's some people that are opposed to it, and it makes sense. Both sides make sense, but I think that we're losing a lot more by not pushing this.
I agree wholeheartedly. There is a very conservative argument as to why, school choice shouldn't be done or shouldn't be a thing. But I do think that if we are genuinely going to be compassionate and we do actually want to help the inner city, we do have to allow for that little leeway to say, hey, if you want to send kids from a different school into this school, even though, I work to live in this town and et cetera, I do think that we need to show that little bit of compassion and at least offer the opportunity. Maybe do I was talking about this with a friend, maybe do some sort of scholarship thing where, the kids that have the highest grades and they want to go to a different school get to go to that different school. So somehow still keep it a meritocracy, but at the same time leave that opportunity for people to be able to experiment and go to schools that they wouldn't normally be able to.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it's something that Donald Trump can really win on. Unfortunately, a lot of parents don't even know that this is a thing. And so I know that this is currently a thing. Some people have done it before. It's not like it's a completely new concept, but a lot of people don't even know that you can do it because it's so covered up.
Right.
Yes, they don't even allow you to speak about it because that's money. And, money makes the world go around for everyone, So when it really comes... Yeah, so I think that one thing that we can really show as Republicans and conservatives that we do have a heart, because we do. We just have a complex way of, and it's not even complex sometimes.
It's just realistic, right?
Exactly. It's realistic, but it's so complex for some people because it doesn't involve identity politics. It's like, you do this, and over time this is going to happen. And It's so simple, but people just can't understand it because, like I said, like you were talking about, identity politics is so involved in everything that people just can't think that way, in simplistic terms.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've been media trained for the past, I want to say 50 years to look at everything through the lens of identity, through the lens of race or sex or sexual preference or anything like that. So to step outside of that and say, these are the objective facts, and it's not because of somebody's skin color, it's because of X, Y, and Z circumstances. That's a hard ask for somebody that doesn't really care about all this stuff and they just want to live happy. So I'm totally on the same page as you. So watching this, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen from here to November? Do you see more riots? Do you see what do you think Joe Biden is thinking right now? Let's start with that.
Well, I don't even think Joe Biden is thinking anything right now. I think he's probably in his basement, just taking a nap or something. I mean, you know how the elderly go to bed.
Right.
He's been asleep for a while now.
He just had his porridge.
Yeah, but then we have all the, the masterminds, the evil geniuses in the background working overtime. I know we're going to see crazy headlines and, the typical leftist outlets, completely trashing the RNC.
Yeah,
but I've noticed...
Let's do a little wager then. What do you think is going to be the top Washington Post article about the RNC? What racist, misogynistic thing do you think Trump has said or will say by tomorrow that the Washington Post is going to run with as an article?
You know what? I don't even think it's going to be about Trump. I think it's probably going to be about, obviously they're going to throw something in about Trump. I can't really imagine what they were throwing right now. I think it might be a little bit too early.
Yeah.
But I think that they might say that there is a lack of pigment somewhere in there,
That's a great one.
So not diverse.
Yeah, that's a great one. It's going to be something to the effect of, the whole first hour of the RNC didn't even show one person of color or something like that. It's gonna be some sort of identity politics measure for sure. I think
yes, I also think that they're going to attack the view. The views are amazing on this. There's thousands more watching this than I saw watching the DNC, and they're probably still going to find a way to say that no one was watching it.
Right.
So I do think that's going to be another talking point for the leftist outlets.
That's a smart one. I didn't think of that one. All right, cool. Thank you so much for calling in. This definitely helped the time go a little bit faster, but I definitely want to keep hearing what you have to say. So if you want to call back, if something crazy happens and you want to call back, feel free to call back. And until then, I'm looking forward to our podcast, and we'll be in touch.
I'm looking forward to it as well. Okay, don't take this as a final goodbye. I might call in later.
All right.
Something interesting might happen. All right, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
Red Scorpio, ladies and gentlemen, super cool person, very young and very smart. You know, this is what the new generation is looking like. So it's got a silver lining, it's giving me some hope. Like I'm not just going through this all on my own. But absolutely. So now we're going into some more of these ads. I missed a couple of those talks, so if you guys were watching, okay, I think we have somebody else. If this is a telemarketer, I'm sorry. Hello. Oh, 1 second. Hello?
Angel.
Yes.
It's Goblin Gang.
Goblin Gang. Sorry, man. We had somebody else call in right as you called.
Oh, do your thing, man. Do your thing.
Yeah. How are you?
Good, man. But take your call, dude.
Oh, no. I mean, we just ended.
Oh, did you? I'm sorry.
You called at the perfect time, my friend. How you doing?
How are you, man?
Very good. Very good. It's good to put a voice to the name, you know?
Yeah, dude, I tell you what, man, I think it's going to be a tougher election than people think.
Yeah, how so?
I think that they're going to seriously make an attempt to push some off-the-roll voters in some of the bigger states like California.
You think they're going to try and bring out more Democrat votes?
Yeah, I think they are. I think that's part of. That's why whenever they talk about getting rid of the Electoral College, I get real suspicious of anyone telling me that we should only go by the popular vote.
Yeah.
Because then you got New York and L.A., and that's going to swamp out so many other places.
Of course, yeah. I do think that there's always an ulterior motive to things like that, you know. But it's easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to masquerade that as like some moral good. It's like, oh, we just want the voice of the people. It's like, no, you just want to be able to manipulate the election easier. And I do think that that's a solid analysis. I do, however, see like there's more people that are openly pro-Trump this time around than there was last time.
Yeah, there definitely is. Some, you know, I'm in an entirely different spiritual community than you,
right?
And I've been seeing more younger people, particularly of color, which is interesting.
Yes,
coming out in support of Trump.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll tell you this personally. Like, I live in New Jersey. It's a very diverse state. Like, there's, you know, we're a melting pot here. Even though we kind of all tend to congregate to our own individual little towns, there's definitely a big melting pot. And what I've noticed is that every single type of minority has been having their share of people coming out as Trump supporters, in particular the Hispanic community. The Hispanic community here in Jersey has just been crazy in the amount of support they've been showing towards the president. It's wild. And what it seems like, and I'd love to get your take on this, it almost seems like the people who are older tend to be more liberal than the people that are younger. And that to me is a wild thing.
Yeah, I know, like, you know, I moved to Jersey 3 years ago, but I grew up in Philly, so I was always in Jersey.
Okay.
I know that in, like, Philly and a lot of South Jersey, there's a huge Cuban community.
Yes.
And they, especially the older Cubans, like, they don't want to hear anything related to socialism, communism. Don't bring it up unless you really want to be verbally taken to school.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean,
and then there was
the Cuban community is very conservative in that sense, especially like from the governmental perspective because of what they had to deal with there.
Oh, absolutely. I actually used to be an Uber driver, so I used to get to talk to a lot of people.
Cool.
And that was when I first realized that, like, how many people, how many minority groups were really very, very conservative. One of those was when the Pope was in town. I was out doing extra shifts, and I picked up a very lovely Vietnamese family, and they were 100% against the Democrats. And they told me how they came to the United States, and all I kept thinking was, wow.
Yeah.
You know what? You made my grandfather's story sound pleasant.
Yeah, it's crazy to see how many actual, like, very tragic but still kind of inspirational stories there are from immigrants that came here 20 years ago, even, 10 years ago. There's a lot that people overcome to come here, and it just keeps, for me, it just keeps begging the question, what's so different about it here, and why do people always want to come here as opposed to, I don't know, England or something like that? And I do think that it comes back to those
just the Constitution and our actual freedoms, that we really are free here. We really can do pretty much whatever we want within reason. And that, to me, is something that's very, very rare. Like I was talking about it with the lady that just called. We're in a country that contextually within the history of the world is not only a freak experiment, but it's a very weird experiment where the rights are not given from government, but they're given from God. We entrust people, we empower people, and we trust people do the right thing in order to continue civilization, right? And that in the context of all of history has never been done. So I think
and if you go back and you look, there has always been in the history of the United States, whenever it seems that we start to move into a more authoritarian. I can't even talk about it. We start to move to a more government-controlled, stricter government. There's immediately a pushback against it.
Absolutely.
You go back to the Red Scare, the first one, the second one. There was immediate pushback, and not just from people, but from our military as well.
Yes.
Who said, no, this is the Constitution. This is what we go by. And that's where the modern left worries me the most. Because they're following right along with the Frankfurt School and with the traditional Bolshevik style Soviet playbook, where they're pushing more for the complete destruction of all of our society structures.
Right. Can you unpack a little bit of what the Frankfurt School is for those that might not know?
The Frankfurt School was a school of thought of socialist, more communist. During right before World War II, a lot of them fled with the rise of fascist Germany,
right? And
they came to the United States and immediately went into education, where they began to push communism and break stuff down. And basically, that's where the culture war really starts to hit.
Right.
And they encourage these students to go into media, journalism, Hollywood, and education.
Right.
And they use that as, and that's kind of a very, very oversimplified.
No, that's perfectly put.
And they, and they came in and they hit very hard because college kids, they're still not really, they're not adults. They haven't really formed opinions.
Right.
Especially in that era, because most of them the country was much, much different.
Absolutely.
And they pushed them into these fields to push this agenda. And following the Soviet playbook, the first things that they target are family structure. You see that a lot with Black Lives Matter. If you actually go on their website and read a lot of their stuff, it's very anti-Western values.
Yeah,
it's anti-nuclear family.
Nuclear family, absolutely.
They push that. They break down the media, and everything becomes almost like a trigger word. Like people have been brainwashed. When you hear this word, this is what it really means.
Right. Right.
And
changing languages and changing definitions is
absolutely
part of that. That's where the postmodern thought kind of becomes interjected into this, where it's like nothing is really what you say it is. It's what we all dictate it is as a collective.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then, as they break, what's going to take the place, all of our differences in spirituality aside,
right?
What is going to take the place of the spiritual factor and the family factor?
Exactly.
The government.
Exactly.
The government becomes all-consuming, all-knowing.
Absolutely.
And I'll actually shoot you over a really interesting article. I think you might find that the Soviets, while they were persecuting Christians, they were targeting religious minorities very, very hard, especially in the more rural areas.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
and
I'd love to take a look at that article.
It is absolutely brutal. And then if you watch it, they're sort of doing the same thing here, except I think, and I hate going to taking it to a street level, but you have groups like the Proud Boys, and you have, these other groups that are rising up to meet them out there.
Right, right.
And, we also have, more intellectual people like yourself who are coming out and speaking. And on the field of culture, because I heard you were talking about that, and I thought that was interesting. You do have almost a conservative counterculture forming.
Yes, that's such a good way to put it.
And you have guys like Upchurch, and Adam Calhoun and Tom McDonald. And while they may not be conservatives, you know, they're speaking out against cancel culture. And Tom McDonald just made a statement in the song "Stupid People" where he said, if you saw it, he said, how is bacteria life on Mars, but a heartbeat's not life on Earth?
Yeah. Tom McDonald is a great example of what I mean when I say we need to take over the culture. If for those of you that don't know, he's I guess more of like a very urban trap rapper. Like the sound is very trap. Doesn't necessarily mean he's from the trap, but it's very in your face. Unapologetic about his message, and it's really interesting stuff. Well, he had one of his
very similar. I actually compared Tom McDonald. I was talking to some of my neighbors yesterday, and I said to him, I said, for those of us who are old enough to remember Mad Magazine.
Not Mad
Magazine. I'm sorry, National Lampoon Magazine.
Okay.
National Lampoon Magazine didn't care about anyone's opinion. They insulted the right, the left, anyone. They went after everyone.
Wow.
But they just did it because they thought it was funny.
Right.
And you have people who are still out there like that, and you look at, you know, we need to get more of a presence too. There are conservative celebrities, but we need to get them on board and, you know, speaking out too.
Absolutely. Like I saw, you know, Mario Lopez on the Candace Owens show. This was I want to say almost 8 months ago. And he's very, very conservative. You know, I believe he's Mexican. He's Catholic on top of that. He believes in the nuclear family. He's clearly against, you know, the idea of transitioning children and transitioning, you know, the ability to kind of change your sex. Absolutely. Like it's defined in real life. And he got a lot of flack for being on that. And I think that's what has to change. We have to get to a place where celebrities feel safe talking about these things, and we will reward them in the market. You know, like, for example, somebody like, let's say it's an actor, you know, we would love to reward people who step forward and embrace the truth with our dollars and back them with our dollars. I think that's going to be the way to go, because right now the reason that they're not coming out is because they don't want to give their livelihood away, you know, and the way it's seeming from Hollywood is like, if I say the wrong thing, I can't work and I can't feed my family anymore. So I do think that, you know, the Republican market has to do better with backing those that actually stand for the truth and supporting.
Absolutely, it's very similar. Basically, it's the modern version of the Hollywood blacklist.
Yes.
Kelsey Grammer, right after 9/11, put together a movie. I'm drawing a blank on the name. It was basically mocking Michael Moore.
Oh, wow.
And they put tons of conservative celebrities in it, and the greatest scene of all was General Patton coming back and slapping Michael Moore in the face.
I have to see that. I never saw that. Wow.
I'll have to look it up and send it over to you. But listen, I don't want to keep you too long because you're doing your thing.
I appreciate it, man.
But listen, hit me up, man. Patterson's not too far from Little Egg. Man, we'll get together one day.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it. And definitely, I can't tell you enough how much it means to me to have your support on all the content.
Oh, dude, man, I love your channel, man.
I appreciate it, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, stay safe, bro.
All right, later. So cool. He's been following me since I want to say the first video that I put up since my walkaway video. So I appreciate the people that really are sticking to the channel, and especially the people, my Patreon subscribers. I can't wait to have them on. Maybe I'll go live on Patreon, actually.
He's fighting the forces of anarchy.
So let's get back into this.
And I know he will continue to do just that.
Ooh, I like the accent.
And what about his opponent and the rest of the DC swamp? I have no doubt they will hand the country over to those dangerous forces.
Wow.
You and I will decide. And here's what I've decided. My decision is very easy. I choose President Trump because I choose America. I choose freedom. I still hear my dad. There is no other place to go. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless America.
Amen.
The Democrats are just going more and more left.
Many positive about socialism, liking it more than capitalism.
Many of the ideas we fought for
that were considered radical are now mainstream. The compromise that
That's for sure, Bernie. That's for sure.
Implemented, will make Biden the most progressive president since FDR.
The radical left has taken over the Democratic Party, and Joe Biden is marching in lockstep with them. Biden and the far left are promising to crush middle-class families with trillions in new taxes.
If you elect me, your taxes are going to be raised, not cut.
Promising amnesty and health care for 11 million illegal immigrants.
Citizenship for 11 million undocumented folks.
Promising to shut down energy exploration, killing jobs, and hurting America's economy.
I guarantee we're going to end fossil fuel.
In Joe Biden's America, the radical left get whatever they want, and you get to pay for it. They've already taken over Joe Biden and the Democratic Party.
This is what I was talking about.
America.
This idea of Joe Biden coming in and being this like very moderate Democrat is out the window. That has been out the window for a long time. The minute Joe Biden steps into office, we're going to be backed. We're going to start hearing from AOC a lot more. We're going to start hearing from Bernie. I bet you he brings in Bernie as some sort of ambassador or something. We're going to start seeing all of these really radical left-wing people taking a more mainstream role within the White House, and that, my friends, is the beginning of the end. That is a very scary place to be.
Former vice president.
Who's
From a
this?
failed administration.
Oh,
that
he's talking about
ambassador
Joe Biden.
said, and I quote, "Democrats always blame America first."
Ooh.
The year was 1984. The president was Ronald Reagan. And Ambassador Jeane Kirkpatrick's words are just as true today. Joe Biden and the Democrats are still blaming America first.
So true. That's so
Donald
true.
Trump has always put America first, and he has earned 4 more years as president.
I do want to see some more
It was an honor of a
familiar faces.
lifetime
let
to
me
serve
tell
as
you.
the United States
I understand
ambassador
that
to
we
the
have to
United
be-
Nations.
We have to be cordial.
Now, the UN
There's
is
people
not
that need to be in here and they need to say what they need to say, but we need something that's going to separate us. I mean, the DNC puts up a celebrity every 5 minutes, and I think, now it's to their own detriment, but right now the RNC needs to step into culture more than ever. We need to be center in that culture, and right now they have not done that. I mean, what's the closest they've gotten to that is Charlie Kirk in the very beginning. We really need the RNC to start looking at things from a cultural perspective as well as a political one, as well as one that matters and that has facts behind it. But we need to dip our toes. We live in this country, and we all follow the same culture. We need to be bringing out people with familiar faces. It just has to be that way.
Obama and Biden led the United Nations to denounce our friend and ally, Israel. President Trump moved our embassy to Jerusalem, and when the UN tried to condemn us, I was proud to cast the American veto. This president has a record of strength and success. The former vice president has a record of weakness and failure. Joe Biden is good for Iran and ISIS, great for communist China, and he's a godsend to everyone who wants America to apologize, abstain, and abandon our values. Donald Trump takes a different approach. He's tough on China, and he took on ISIS and won. And he tells the world what it needs to hear.
We're about to have another guest on, I believe. I'll wait a second before I announce who it is, just in case. But I'm excited. I've actually had this person on the podcast already, so it's gonna be cool. We're gonna get to catch up, and I get to hear what his take is on this whole thing so far. So let's see.
We had a pretty good run. Manufacturers of all kinds flocked to our state from overseas, creating tens of thousands of American jobs. People were referring to South Carolina as the beast of the Southeast, which I loved. Everything we did happened in spite of Joe Biden and his old boss. We cut taxes, they raised them. We slashed red tape, they piled on more mandates.
Yep.
And when we brought in good-paying jobs, Biden and Obama sued us. I fought back, and they gave up.
Wow.
A Biden-Harris administration would be much, much worse. Last time, Joe's boss was Obama. This time, it would be Pelosi, Sanders, and the squad. Their vision for America is socialism, and we know that socialism has failed everywhere.
Very important.
They want to tell Americans how to live and what to think. They want a government takeover of health care. They want to ban fracking and kill millions of jobs. They want massive tax hikes on working families. Joe Biden and the socialist left would be a disaster for our economy.
It sure
But
would.
President Trump is leading a new era of opportunity. Before Communist China gave us the coronavirus, we were breaking economic records left and right. The pandemic has set us back, but not for long. President Trump brought our economy back before, and he will bring it back again. There's one more important area where our president is right. He knows that political correctness and cancel culture are dangerous and just plain wrong. In much of the Democratic Party, it's now fashionable to say that America is racist.
Angel, what's up, buddy?
What's up, man? Great to hear from you. So I want to let you know we are live on YouTube right now. Just before you say.
All right. Gotcha.
Yeah,
gotcha.
man. So just introduce yourself to the people. Let them know who you are, and just in case they can't recognize your voice.
Yeah, guys. Hey, my name is JD. I'm known very well as Chicano for Trump. I'm with the Lexit movement. I'm actually the Florida representative. The Lexit movement is the Latinos exiting the Democratic Party movement. Our founder is Jesse Holguin.
Love it, man.
So,
I'm so glad you're on here. I've been wondering what your take has been on this whole thing so far.
Well, I've been kind of going back and forth with the RNC tonight. Obviously, I have kids and everything else, and dealing with Lexit. I have a lot of things going on. But I'm really enjoying it. This is legitimately the first time that I've actually sat down to watch the RNC.
Oh, wow.
So, so this is very groundbreaking for me. This is very historic for me because, just like I said, it wasn't until 2016 till I voted for the very first time in my life.
That's right.
And, of course, we know who I voted for. So this is the first time that I definitely wanted to sit down. Big reasons why, man. Here's the main thing is when I watched bits and pieces of the DNC, and they never spoke anything as to what they're trying to fix or change for America.
That was one of the first things that I brought up, man. Like in the first 5 minutes of the RNC, we were talking about policy already. We were talking about ideas for the future. The DNC, 3 days of just like political pandering.
Bashing Trump.
Yeah, bashing Trump. Absolutely.
It was exactly the same mindset they had last election, man. So not much has changed, but I have two friends from California that I'm still friends with on Facebook, which is weird because usually everybody blocks each other. But they're very liberal mindset, and they tend to come on all my posts and like, come on, man, I thought you were smarter than that. I can't believe you're Trump's support. All that fun stuff. But one of my buddies, I'm not gonna say his name, but he made a post and he's like, can you believe who they have speaking for the RNC? And he literally just pointed out all of Trump's family and like forgot that the RNC was gonna be all weak. I'm like, bro, that's how ridiculous you are. Like, there's gonna be more speakers than who you're saying at the RNC. But when he put that, I was just like, you know what? But I do want to go and see what they have to say. There's gonna be a lot of people speaking that are gonna have stuff that I want to hear. And right now, so far, man, I've heard nothing but good stuff. Yeah. Kimberly killed it, man. She, man. I told my wife, I was like, Kimberly, she's on it right now.
Yeah.
She's talking like there's people actually in the crowd and people need to hear. She made sure that people were listening to what she was saying. Maximo Alvarez, that was my favorite one, dude, because, and that was just before who's on right now. I love everything he had to say, and he's here in Florida.
Can you do a quick recap of him? Because we were on the line with somebody else while he was talking.
So Maximo, he's a Cuban-born citizen. He was born in Cuba, so he went through and understands the whole, everything when it comes to socialism.
Right.
That's what he was speaking on, how, the only reason why he is the person he is today is because he was able to come to America. His father was telling him this is a place you need to love.
Wow.
And he was just explaining to the fellow Americans that are talking about socialism, that don't know what it is, how old boy in Cuba would call himself a Catholic. He would say he was Catholic because he had to hide the fact that he was actually who he was.
Right.
And people bought into it. He was talking about how they bought into the free schooling, the free healthcare, and the free this and free that, without understanding what kind of prices they would have to pay. He was going over all the free things that they were told they were going to get, how everything sounded so grand, when realistically that's all they were saying, but none of it ever came true. And then he was kind of going into how, you know, I hate seeing it now in America, things that are going on like in Portland, Chicago, how you guys are sitting there struggling, dealing with actual communism in your own city.
Right.
And you're not listening to people like us when we tell you, we don't want you to starve. We don't want you to die. We don't want you to have those problems. And he was saying it with like tears in his eyes, dude. Like he was super just like emotional the whole time, and you can feel everything he was saying.
Yeah, I caught the tail end of it. I do. So one of the Trumps is on right now. You want to do a play-by-play with me?
Sure.
All right, let's listen to what he has to say.
I think
we'll do a couple minutes, you know?
The greatest prolonged economic expansion in American history. The lowest unemployment rate in nearly 50 years. The lowest unemployment rates ever for Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, women, and pretty much every other demographic group. And then, courtesy of the Chinese Communist Party, the virus struck. The president quickly took action and shut down travel from China. Joe Biden and his Democrat allies called my father a racist and a xenophobe for doing it.
This is so important
Political
right now.
correctness
Absolutely.
ahead of the safety and security of the American people. Fortunately, as the virus began to spread, the president acted quickly and ensured ventilators got to hospitals that needed them most. He delivered PPE to our brave frontline workers, and he rallied the mighty American private sector to tackle this new challenge.
He's a great speaker,
There's
man.
more work to do, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Job gains are outpacing what the so-called experts expected. But Biden's radical left-wing policies would stop our economic recovery cold. He's already talking about shutting the country down again. It's madness. Democrats claim to be for workers, but they've spent the entire pandemic trying to sneak a tax break for millionaires in Democrat states into the COVID relief bill.
So I'll let you get back to watch it on your own, man. But I do want to touch on a couple things before I let you go, which I think would be relevant specifically to you. I mean, the production value. The way that DNC had everything set up with the Zoom calls and the kind of this weird, almost like a knockoff Grammy Awards kind of thing. Yeah. It just didn't play to their hand. Where I'm seeing this as like very traditional, straightforward, and I'm absolutely loving the cinematography, everything that they're doing here. What's your take on that?
Absolutely, man. I was thinking that too. Like as they're doing the actual. That's funny because I know me and you think alike. So as they're doing these different shots, I'm actually looking at that like that's actually a pretty good shot. I like how they use that. I like how they're cutting away. But you're right. The DNC was completely green screen most of the time. It was ridiculous how it was that fake Zoom call. I mean, even in the Zoom call, you could see 3 people at the same time. It wasn't even enough people. And it seemed like, again, the DNC is all about pandering. Right. And one of the things that you can tell with the DNC is they were trying to look cool. They were trying to look hip. They were trying to gain the attention of the younger people, which are the people that we're fighting every day on social media, that really don't know anything about policies and politics and things of that nature. Right. So they did a great job looking that way, but to people who are, I don't want to call anybody stupid, but to people who are more educated and have a little more class, we all saw that kind of as a clown show. Yeah. And individuals like yourself and myself who understand film and things of that nature know that they did a horror. It really looked like it was put together in like less than a day. Yeah. Like they didn't really take no time to think about it. They're like, hey, let's just do all this. And everyone clapped and said, let's go for it. You know?
Right. I felt like they were doing an intentionally low budget, indie movie or something with their Zoom calls. I do think that the other thing is the branding behind it, right? Where, like you said, the DNC they were attempting to be very modern and slick. There's this traditionalism in this one where you're looking at you're almost sensing all the history with the monuments in the background and the pillars and all that stuff. I think that speaks to another level of like the difference in ideology that's going on with these two camps.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I can't wait to hear all the negative attacks that the RNC is going to get for their well-spoken people on here, because you know that's going to happen. And they're probably going to say something about that too. Oh, they're shoving white supremacy down your throat by showing, you know it's coming, dude.
Yeah,
you know it's going to happen.
On that note, one of my last callers, we placed a bet on what the first Washington Post article would be that would be kind of condemning or kind of shunning away the RNC, and she said that she thought it would be something along the effects of there hasn't been a single person of color in the first 15 minutes of the RNC or something of those lines. What do you think your take is? What do you think that the first thing that the Washington Post is going to attack when it comes to this?
It's gonna be Donald Trump Jr. I guarantee you, it's gonna be something about him. I don't think they're gonna even care about people of color. They love to hate Donald Trump Jr. so much. It'll be something about Donald Trump Jr. and Kimberly. I can guarantee you, they're probably going to say something specific about Kimberly, the way she was speaking. And I can almost put money on it that it's going to be either something about Kimberly or Donald Trump Jr.
All right. Well, we got a friendly little wager. I got a feeling it's going to be something to do with white supremacy and the lack of diversity. That's my
white supremacy. White supremacy is absolutely there. I know that's going to happen. I just know that they're going to say something about Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah.
Again, they're always taking jabs at him, but he speaks so eloquently, so they got to try to do something like that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate you stopping by, giving your thoughts. I know you're chilling, watching it over there, so I'm not going to keep you on for too long. But I appreciate you, man, and you're doing great work out there.
I'm trying, but I gotta keep on the lookout because I got a possible tour coming up. I'm gonna be going through the Florida, Louisiana, Texas area, Alabama area with a gentleman by the name of Bill, who's going to be. We're gonna have a cool RV that's completely Trump 2020 wrapped and has Lexit stuff all over it, and we're gonna stop different places to talk to people about voting and things of that nature. And they just let me know today that they wanted it to be more based around me specifically, not Bill anymore, because I'm the younger minority Hispanic, and they like all the stuff that I've brought to the table. So like, we want you to be, man. Yeah, that's that's dope because, like I said, I started all this. Lexa gave me a platform. Now Bill's going to give me a platform. So keep on the lookout, bud. I'll keep up with you.
Got it, man. If you make your way to Jersey, we'll shoot some content together.
That'd be dope. Yeah, all right, man. We keep doing what you're doing, bud.
Appreciate it, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Gotta love the Lexit gang. It's very cool. Let's see how Trump is going to finish this.
Everything starts with safety and security. You can't have anything else without it.
I agree, Goblin Gang. We need better public
relations.
relations.
You can't focus on building a better future for your children without the peace of mind that they can study safely in their classrooms, play safely in their neighborhoods, and sleep safely in their beds. But safety is only the beginning. Trump's America is a land of opportunity, a place of promise. I was fortunate enough to grow up in a family that could afford the best schools and the finest universities. But a great education cannot be the exclusive right of the rich and powerful. It must be accessible to all. And that's why my dad is pro-school choice. That's why he's called education access the civil rights issue.
I could see the left salivating at that moment, thinking to themselves, he's going to say universal, college tuition for all.
Hispanic American children
school choice,
are stuck in bad schools just because of their zip code. Donald Trump will not stand for it.
This is what we've been talking about.
If Democrats really wanted to help minorities and underserved communities, instead of bowing to big money union bosses,
let them go to a different school.
Let parents choose what school is best for their kids. They'd limit immigration to protect American workers. They'd support the police who protect our neighborhoods. They'd learn how to negotiate trade deals that prioritize America's interests for a change. They'd end the endless wars and quit sending our young people to solve problems in foreign lands. They'd cut taxes for families and workers. They'd create opportunity zones that drive investment into inner cities. In other words, if Democrats cared for the forgotten men and women of our country, they'd do exactly what President Trump is doing.
Ooh. Burn.
America is the greatest country on earth, but my father's entire worldview revolves around the idea that we can always do even better. Imagine the life you want to have. One with a great job, a beautiful home.
I think that's pretty true. I mean, I don't think Donald Trump Sr. has this really well thought out worldview. But I will say, I'm pretty sure he has a very formed worldview when it comes to business and finance and hard work and ethic, just because of what he's done with his life in the real estate game.
Where heroes are celebrated and the good guys win. You can have it. That is the life. That is the country. That is the world that Donald Trump and the Republican Party are after. And yes, you can have it. Because unlike Joe Biden and the radical left Democrats, our party is open to everyone.
I love that.
It starts by rejecting radicals who want to drag us into the dark and embracing the man who represents a bright and beautiful future for all. It starts by re-electing Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Thank you, and God bless America.
Guys, we're almost there. We've made it this far. I'm so glad you're with me. If you're still with me, get into the live chat and just let me know that you're here. Before we listen to this, we're almost at the talk with the president. So we're almost there, guys. This is just as hard for me as it is for you. You know, I'm a very introverted person, so being here talking with you guys is very fun, but also very draining for me. So I'm excited for the president. Let's see what these ladies have to say. I'm very interested.
A little bit of fun, I guess. They taught us the values
Let's go,
of hard
Bridget.
work, liberty, to love this country unapologetically. Our dad is a beekeeper and just had so many different things out in the countryside, and it was just such a sweet,
We
quaint.
grew up
Are they
selling
twins?
honey at farmers markets, so my line was, have you ever been stung by a bee? But really, it was teaching us, again, entrepreneurship, small business, self-reliance, and that we're the ones that need to put in the hard work to get what we want.
You know, my mother being from Guatemala, escaping what she had there, growing up
Latinos.
in poverty, and coming here
Their
to the United
Instagram's gonna
States,
blow
being
up
able
after
to
this.
fulfill her destiny and be somebody that she couldn't there in her home country.
And they really instilled in us the sense of purpose,
Gobbly Gang,
but
I appreciate
also
you, man. Thanks for the phone call.
and that we had to strive to do the things that we wanted, and it was up to us to make those things happen.
In America, there's no ceiling of opportunity. You know, you define your own destiny through personal responsibility, through hard work,
You
through
mean there's
having
no
a moral
invisible glass
value
ceiling?
system. That's the American dream, and President Trump's providing that for everybody.
Absolutely.
Look at my business, Begin Health. As a small startup that is growing and launching, we are constantly trying to innovate, and the big challenge that COVID brought that we just didn't see coming was that just almost everything kind of just shut down. And when you are a small startup and you have limited funding, and the funding is really only to kind of get you to that next milestone, we were really struggling.
I
And
agree,
so we were
Sydney,
able
man.
to apply for a PPP loan.
It just feels like a nice weight lifted off. Like we're looking at the country and it's good. It's not like we have this horrible place that we're all living. We're actually looking. There's hope in these ads. There's hope. I mean, they're ads. You know, they're campaign ads. But it's so true.
Tax Cuts and Jobs Act
So
was
true.
huge.
Much more
Manufacturing,
positive.
deregulation, fair trade. These are things that affected real
Even
Americans.
listen to the music in comparison to what the DNC was playing, which was this gloomy, like, boom, he's going to, you know, ruin the world, blah, blah. This is hopeful. This is inspirational. This is dream seeking.
Aren't the stereotypical conservative. I mean, we
Neither
come
am
from
I, girl.
Hispanic descent, and we're millennial women, and that's not what the media wants.
It's so true.
And so somebody like AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this far left, these women come out with these very, very destructive political ideologies that are trying to infiltrate millennials
I love how she's still
and the
being
next
cordial,
generation.
even while showing how
I've
destructive
decided to
her
step up
ideology
and
is.
say, well, we need a counter voice to these women.
There has been an assault on capitalism, just
Mhm.
generally. And I think it's very scary to imagine a Biden world where the progressive wing ideas are starting to take front and center stage. You know, that will really choke the American economy. There will be over-regulation, over-taxation.
I
It's
agree,
very hard
Sydney.
to innovate.
That was one of the things that we were talking about earlier.
ultimately,
I mentioned
what's really sad is
they've made
making all of us dependent
how do I say it? They've made a conscious attempt to stay away from identity politics and not play the quota game and flood the whole event with minorities and women, even though they could do that because there are that many people who are voting for Trump, but they're just staying away from it altogether because they're not even going to dive into that. I think that's a super smart move. Whoever decided that would be a strategy is they need a raise because a lot of Republicans would have been turned off by that because it is a poisonous ideology and you can't just dip your toe. You have to go all the way in.
Truly fighting for the American people. We're the greatest country in the world, period. On our worst day, we're still the greatest country in the world. And in order to preserve that, it's by putting America first, having a thriving economy, having happiness.
Hey, there he is.
Good evening. I'm Senator Tim Scott from the great state of South Carolina.
How you doing?
To all of you tuning in and participating in the political process, God bless you. This isn't how I pictured tonight, but our country is experiencing something none of us envisioned. From a global pandemic to the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, 2020 has tested our nation.
That's an interesting point, Sydney. I can't lie. I was definitely upset when they said they wouldn't have Candace Owens on. She does kind of weaponize the identity politics in her favor a little bit. I do think that there's a little danger with that, but I just thought that having such a prominent voice would have been a good idea. I guess we'll see how it plays out. But I do think I definitely see your point there.
Joe Biden. It's about the promise of America. It's about you and me, our challenges and heartbreaks, hopes and dreams. It's about how we respond when tackling critical issues like police reform. When Democrats called our work a token effort and walked out of the room during negotiations because they wanted the issue more than they wanted a solution. Do we want a society that breeds success or a culture that cancels everything it even slightly disagrees with? I know where I stand because you see, I am living my mother's American dream. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, and we moved in with my grandparents into a 2-bedroom home with me, my mom, and my brother sharing a room and one bed.
Interesting.
My mom worked 16 hours a day to keep food on the table and a roof over our heads. She knew that if we could find the opportunity, bigger things would come. I thought I had to use football to succeed in life, and my focus on academics faded away. My freshman year, I failed out. I failed 4 subjects: Spanish, English, world geography, and even civics. Trust me though, after 7 years in the Senate, I know I'm not the only one in Congress who failed civics. But even while I was failing the 9th grade, my mother always said to me, "Timmy, if you would just shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll be among the stars." She never lost faith in me, even when I lost faith in myself. Because of her encouragement, I went to summer school and caught up. The next year, I met my mentor, John Moniz, a Chick-fil-A operator. John saw something in me that I could not see in myself and started teaching me valuable life lessons. Like having a job would be a good thing, but creating jobs would be even better. That having an income could change my lifestyle, but creating a profit could change my community. He planted the seeds of what would become opportunity zones. This initiative that the president and I worked together on is now bringing more than $75 billion of private sector investment into distressed communities. I took those lessons to heart and started putting the pieces of my life back together. I realized a quality education is the closest thing to magic in America. That's why I fight to this day for school choice, to make sure every child in every neighborhood has a quality education. I don't care if it's a public, private, charter, virtual, or a homeschool. When a parent has a choice, their kid has a better chance. And the president has fought alongside me on that. Later in life, I started my own small business. That's why I know it is critical for us to have a tax code that encourages growth. We actually saw revenues to the Treasury increase after we lowered taxes in 2017. Rest assured, the Democrats do not want you to know that. After starting my small business and spending some time in local government, I decided to run for Congress in 2010. The district is based in Charleston, South Carolina, where the Civil War started, against a son of our legendary Senator, Strom Thurmond. You may be asking yourself, how does a poor black kid from a single-parent household run and win in a race crowded with Republicans against a Thurmond? Because of the evolution of the Southern heart. In an overwhelmingly white district, the voters judge
Amy for the
me
win.
not
Best comment of the
on
night.
the color of my skin.
I totally agree.
But on the
I wonder if he would have done it,
of my character. We live in a world that only wants you to believe in the bad news, racially, economically, and culturally polarizing news. The truth is, our nation's arc always bends back towards fairness.
Yep.
We are not fully where we want to be, but I thank God Almighty, we are not where we used to be. We are always striving to be better. When we stumble, and we will, we pick ourselves back up and try again. We don't give in to cancel culture or the radical and factually baseless belief that things are worse today than in the 1860s or the 1960s.
Right.
We have work to do, but I believe in the goodness of America, the promise that all men and all women are created equal. And if you're watching tonight, I'm betting you do too.
Absolutely.
Over the past 4 years, we have made tremendous progress towards that promise. President Trump built the most inclusive economy ever. 7 million jobs created pre-COVID-19, and 2/3 of them went to women, African Americans, and Hispanics. The first new major effort to tackle poverty in a generation.
Even more so, women are more likely now to be entrepreneurs more than men are. At the same rate, graduating at the same time, there are more women entrepreneurs, new women entrepreneurs than there are men. And this is the first time that's ever happened in history.
70% on average. President Trump supported these tax cuts for those single moms and other working families and signed these policies into law. And our nation is better off for it. So, I'm going to ask you, the American people, not to simply look at what the candidates say, but to look back at what they've done. This election is about your future, and it is critical to paint a full picture of the records of Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Yep.
Joe Biden said if a black man didn't vote for him, he wasn't truly black. Joe Biden said black people are a monolithic community. It was Joe Biden who said poor kids can be just as smart
rich as white kids.
And while his words are one thing, his actions take it to a whole new level. In 1994, Biden led the charge on a crime bill that put millions of black Americans behind bars. President Trump's criminal justice reform law fixed many of the disparities Biden created and made our system more fair and just for all Americans. Joe Biden also failed our nation's historically black colleges and universities, heaping blame on them as they fought to ensure our young folks had access to higher education. Once again, to clean up Joe Biden's mess, President Trump signed into law historically high funding for HBCUs, as well as a bill to give them permanent funding for the first time ever.
Wow.
And now Joe Biden wants to come for your pocketbooks. Unless, of course, you're a blue state millionaire. I'm serious. That's one of their solutions for the pandemic. They want to take more money from your pocket and give it to Manhattan elites and Hollywood moguls so they get a tax break. Republicans, however, passed President Trump's once-in-a-generation tax reform bill that lowered taxes for single moms,
That's
working
absolutely right,
families,
Sydney.
and those in need. So when it
The
comes
right
to
has a
what
culture
Joe
problem,
Biden says
and
he'll
it is
do,
developing. It is being fixed. You know, with people like us and with younger people now catching the I guess Trump train, right? You're starting to see it more, but it's not mainstream and it's not anything but overtly political. It's always overtly political. So I think we need to start creating a culture where the principles of conservatism are more prevalent than the principles of progressivism. And that's the hard part. Not necessarily a pro-MAGA, pro-Trump mainstream world, but a pro-life, pro-marriage, pro-God mainstream world. I think that's where we need to land more in America.
a fundamentally different America. If we let them, they will turn our country into a socialist utopia.
That's right.
And history has taught us that path only leads to pain and misery, especially for hardworking people hoping to rise. Instead, we must focus on the promise of the American journey.
When is Trump talking?
I
Does
know
anybody
that journey well. My grandfather's 99th birthday would have been tomorrow. Growing up, he had to cross the street if a white person was coming.
I hope our young people
He suffered
start
the
raising their
indignity
standards of what our
being
leaders
forced
should be.
out of school as
I
a
wouldn't be
third
surprised if we
grader
saw candidates
to pick cotton. And he never learned to read or write.
I mean,
Yet,
you know,
he lived long
Cardi
enough
B
to see his grandson.
At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if Cardi B runs for president in 2024 or whatever. And I wouldn't be surprised if she did twerk for votes. I can't even lie. That's not that far-fetched. That's actually pretty right on the nose.
In one lifetime. And that's why I believe the next American century can be better than the last.
Absolutely.
There are millions of families just like mine all across this nation, full of potential, seeking to live.
Why don't you guys drop your favorite Trump policy?
And I'm here tonight
what is the one
to tell
policy
you that
you're
supporting
excited
the Republican
for
ticket
that Trump
gives
has
you
either
the
done
best
or is
chance
going to do?
of making that dream a reality.
I'd love to know.
God bless you. And Father, please continue blessing the United States
Amen.
of America. God bless.
He was like, wait, I gotta keep my cue. I gotta stay on my mark until the love it. Cut away before he starts walking off. What a production, man. I love that the whole RNC, the whole Republican Party has backed Trump. This is crazy, man. Who would have thought in 2016? Who would have ever thought that? That's so wild. That he's going to be the face of the Republican Party. I feel so inspirational when I'm talking over this music. Like I could say anything and it'll be inspiring and patriotic. I could talk about a grilled cheese sandwich and how amazing a grilled cheese sandwich is because America is free and it is the home of the brave. I feel like Obama. I love it. This is amazing. I think they're getting ready for Trump to come out. I'm not sure how this works. This is my first time, just like you guys. So we'll see. I mean, if you guys know that he's on a different channel and I need to switch, then that needs to happen ASAP. So I'm pretty sure he just comes on here. Oh. What is this?
From the lakes of Minnesota.
Okay, I need to stop this before I get flagged. All right, guys. So I think that was it for today. If Trump is gonna talk, then I guess, we'll just watch it. I'll just watch it later, or I'll just watch it tonight and whatever. But thank you guys for sticking around. I mean, this was beautiful. All of the engagement. I'm so happy that you guys got to just hang out here with me and just get to know me a little bit and my off-color humor, or lack thereof, I guess. But thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share this. Make sure this is a watch party that all your friends get to see. And should I do this again tomorrow? Let me know. DM me. Message me on YouTube. Do whatever you want. Text me if you have my number. And just let me know if I should do this tomorrow or not, because I'm not sure yet. I definitely want to do at least Trump's speech. So depending on where that is. You had me at grilled cheese. I'm not sure where you can find a list of those policies, man. But I am super grateful for all of you. So thank you guys, and for all the people that came on the phone as well. I appreciate you guys, and talk to you soon. I'm gonna be putting out a video soon, so see you guys.
Man of food. I want to share with you a dramatic little story.
The world's going crazy, but then so am I. Taking time to compose, expose my hell, and then organize. Free your mind. Everyone got a narrative and a white lie. People painting pictures for the masses just for dollar signs. It's all about the group you're with. I don't care about the life you live. All I see is a small group in your large group that don't see their sin. Nobody look at character. Everybody look at color skin. Nobody look at numbers or facts, it's just how it is. Growing up in a modern age with modern lights and a modern case, just a renegade with plenty rage. I pick fights, see the demon say, more Gatorade, keep the energy and the stamina. Man, a race long, it's a marathon, don't get it mixed like Tangler. Man, get your manners up, no elbows on the table. And pay attention to the people spitting fables. And dialogue is what gets them exposed. If you can't hear this side, then you already know. Man, top dog, not top wolf. Nigga brothers band, yeah, lead the pack with a piece of hand. Building bridges and lighting fires, it's all tribal. I'll feed the ground.